This is WOKO. It's 3 minutes to 10. Stand by for a return to the Conversation Show. Here's the weather forecast for the Capital District. Tonight, clear and cold. Chance of fog or frost in the valleys toward daybreak. Low 40. Tomorrow, sunny and a little warmer. High 75. Tomorrow night, clear and cool. Low 48. Wednesday, sunny and warm. High 80. Probability of rain, near 0%, at least through tomorrow night. We have 58 degrees. That goes back to the 9 o'clock observations. It's a little early yet for the 10 o'clock. 58 degrees at 9 o'clock, and it was clear. Wind from the northeast, 8 miles per hour. Relative humidity, 49%. Barometer, 30.32, rising. 58 degrees.
Hi, this is Margie Pizarski along with Danny Kilbasa inviting you to listen to Country Polka Power on 1460 WOKO Albany every Sunday evening at 10:30.
We'll bring you the best in polka music and invite your comments, birthdays, and personals. Send them to WOKO Polka Power, Box 1460, Albany, New York, 12201.
And for the best in country music, listen to the outstanding team of personalities at 1460 WOKO.
The talk show. Now we have 2 hours, an unusual time for us to have. Usually the game runs till 10:30 or 11, sometimes 11:30. But we have plenty of time for you to have your say, and we'll get underway answering the telephone right after the 10 o'clock news. Jot down the phone number, in case you don't already know it by heart, because you do have to have the number right in order to reach us, and looking in the phone book or asking the operator may get you hooked onto one of our office numbers or news numbers or something else that we don't answer. The number for this show is 438-4511. We'll talk about anything, heavy or light, large or small, whatever. Please don't give your name. Don't talk about anybody else by name unless you're talking about a public figure. And listening, please realize that what you hear on this program is opinion, mine and the callers. And the opinions you hear do not necessarily reflect the views of WOKO, management, ownership, or sponsors.
Hi there, this is Connie Smith, and I'm looking forward to visiting with all of you along with Ralph Emery on the Ralph Emery Show soon. Stay tuned and listen to us.
That'll be this Sunday following the Yankee baseball game. That baseball game will be with Boston at Yankee Stadium. That will probably end about 5:30. And then the Ralph Emery Show holds forth for 5 beautiful hours of great country entertainment every Sunday, late afternoon and early evening, starting after the ball game. This is the call-in show. That telephone number once more, 438-4511. Open topic, and we'll answer the telephone right after the 10 o'clock news.
Another World Championship season for the New York Yankees on WOKO Albany.
10 o'clock.
This is World Wrap-Up from American Information Radio. The sounds of the news this Monday, June 25th. Ian McLeod reporting. In the top of the news, worries about winter home heating oil and worries about a new OPEC oil price boost. Those and other stories coming up.
You can do it with a vice grip.
I did it.
Do it with a vice grip.
I did it.
Do it with a vice grip.
I did it.
Vice grip, locking pliers. Do it with a vice grip. I did it. Do it with a vice grip.
I really did it.
You can do most anything if you do it with a vice grip.
Vice grip locking pliers. They just might be the world's most useful and versatile hand tools. Because when you want to tighten it, loosen it, pull it, cut it, clamp it, twist it, bend it, straighten it, or just plain grab it, you can do it faster and easier with a vice grip. Vice grip locking pliers. They can help you do just about any job you want to do, and you can get them wherever fine tools are sold.
You can do most anything if you do it with a vice grip. Do it with a vice grip. Do it with a vice grip.
Vice grip locking pliers.
While Northeast motorists and some even in Texas scramble for gasoline in a buying panic, possible problems for the coming winter were explored in Washington today. A Senate Energy Subcommittee asked Deputy Energy Secretary John O'Leary about predicted shortages of home heating oil. New Hampshire Democrat John Durkin commented that current energy policy could force Northeast residents to seek public shelter this winter because their homes would be freezing. But O'Leary said the Energy Department could make sure there would be heating oil.
One of the things that we can do is to further tighten up on the gasoline supplies and to create a shortage for jet fuel. And the means of control there would be an absolute limitation on sales. It might be, for example, to a 90% of what they had last year, just arbitrarily across the board.
O'Leary raised the possibility of diesel fuel hoarding in the farm states as one factor in current oil shortages. New York Governor Hugh Carey told a news conference this evening that he wants federal action to provide 45 million gallons of gasoline for the New York metropolitan area to prevent dry tanks this weekend.
We have taken the emergency powers as far as they can go, but we can't provide the gasoline for essential needs of our people at this time.
Most of New Jersey's 5,100 service station operators say they'll close down July 1st and may stay closed through July 4th to protest federal rules on allocations and price margins. A state of emergency is in effect in Levittown, Pennsylvania, where the gasoline shortage and the independent truckers' strike sparked 2 nights of violent clashes between police and thousands of demonstrators. The state of emergency bans gatherings of 5 or more people in Levittown, a suburb of Philadelphia. In the rioting Saturday and Sunday nights, cars were burned and a gas station nearly destroyed. And in Levittown, Darrell Moyer, owner of a Shell station damaged in the disturbances, told ABC News,
"Damage like this here doesn't prove nothing. All it did today was hurt the public themselves because I wasn't able to pump gas."
More than 190 people were arrested and more than 100 injured in the rioting. The Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries opens its June meeting in Geneva tomorrow. ABC's Scott Schuster reports from Geneva that Saudi Arabia is under pressure to go along with proposed big price hikes for crude oil.
As in the past, Saudi Arabia is coming into an OPEC meeting taking a moderate position. They're talking about a 15% increase in the set OPEC price. Iran, some of the more radical countries, are saying they want a 30 or even a 35% increase.
Correspondent Schuster said the Saudis have an ace in the hole. Schuster said that since the Saudis pump more oil than anyone else, they could, if they wished, flood the market with crude and send everyone's price down. This is American Information Radio.
Fantastic, you guys. My son Jimmy has actually grown up on Fisher-Price toys. First it was crib toys, then a parade of preschool toys. But Jimmy is not only outgrowing his clothes, he's outgrown a lot of those toys. Now he's into trucks. So we were relieved to find that Fisher-Price makes all kinds of strong, wonderful trucks. Now, every day after school, half the block is out in our yard digging and dumping and trucking till sundown. Thank you, Fisher-Price.
The White House Symposium on Black Health Care heard recommendations today on how to lower the incidence of deaths of blacks due to high blood pressure, the number one killer of blacks. While high blood pressure has no clear symptoms, it is detectable. In Baltimore today, Maryland State cardiologist Dr. Elijah Saunders told ABC News,
"We hope to focus the attention of those that are concerned of the significance of this problem, that it is killing large number of people, mainly a lot of blacks, but also whites as well, of a disease and that is largely treatable."
To aid detection, simple blood pressure checks could be given by dentists, optometrists, pharmacists, and even churches. I'm Ian McLeod, ABC News, for American Information Radio.
5 after 10. Capital District weather forecast tonight: clear and cold. Chance of fog or frost in the valleys before daybreak. Low 39. Tomorrow, sunny and a little warmer, high 75. Tomorrow night, clear and cool, low 48. Wednesday, sunny and warm, high 80. Probability of rain near 0%, at least through tomorrow night. Here are the 10 o'clock observations at the Albany County Airport. Temperature down 2 degrees, 56, 13 Celsius. Clear, wind from the north-northeast, 7 miles per hour. Relative humidity, 53%. Barometric pressure, 30.36 inches of mercury, rising rapidly. 56 degrees.
Talk with Charlie Huddle on WOKO. Call 438-4511.
The topic is open. You're on WOKO.
Good evening, Charlie.
Speedy, hello.
Hi, how are you?
All right.
Did someone pose the question or present the question of why would it be would it be unfair to have odd even allocations or rationing because there are more odd days in the year?
Well, it wasn't so much that there were more odd days in the year. The situation cited was when the month ends on an odd day and the next month begins on an odd day.
Yeah, that means they have 2 days, right?
Uh-huh.
So that the odd numbered license plates would have more days of gas availability.
Now, that caller said 4 days, that there would be 4 days. And ever since he hung up, I've been wishing I'd asked him where he got 4 days, because I don't understand that.
Well, you have to realize there's a lot more odd people in the world. You see?
Yes, I think that's...
If there are a lot more odd people, they have to have more odd days.
That's safe to say.
Did you hear that new song? Who Put the Line in Gasoline?
Oh, yeah, we've been playing that for about 3 weeks.
Yeah. That's appropriate. You know, there must be a conspiracy between the Department of Energy, DOE, and the oil companies. I heard O'Leary, the assistant deputy head of the Department of Energy, say that he wouldn't be at all surprised if some people in the Department of Energy were being paid off by the oil companies. He said that on 60 Minutes last night.
Yeah.
And that was a repeat of a report that was given earlier in the year. Did you see 60 Minutes last night?
No, I had seen 2 or 3 of those features, so I didn't watch.
They had Ray Bradley on, and he had gone to these islands off Malaysia to look at the situation with the boat people.
That's the segment I'm sorry I missed.
Yeah, and it was pretty pitiful. I mean, they were drinking water that was pretty putrid, and 35,000 people were depending upon it. It was just really... people were coming in off these ships, and he had helped drag some people in through the surf onto the beach. And it was just, people would be... they were very desperate. I mean, if we ever saw that here, that kind of desperation, that kind of living on the edge of survival, we would be very sympathetic. But because it's so far removed, we're just very callous about it and very unfeeling about it. And really, we should let all of those people right into this country. I can't see how this country, which is based on immigration, which is a country of immigrants, which has always espoused, the idea of taking in the poor and the hungry and the unfed, and always being the sort of haven of democracy, haven of liberty. And everybody in this country, except the Indians, have immigrated here, their ancestors or themselves. How we can just say at this time now, be callous enough and selfish enough to say that, well, we just put a stop to immigration, that's it. The same thing is happening on the Mexican border. See, the Mexicans want to come up here because of California, New Mexico, and Arizona, because of the increase, the good opportunities to get jobs and the higher standard of living. And the Border Patrol has put up all types of new fences and increased their patrols. And you see, that's not in my eyes. That's not in keeping with our traditions as a government. Now, obviously, there is going to reach a point where we can't be just indiscreet about our immigration policy. But I think this country can very easily hold the number of immigrants coming from Southeast Asia and easily provide jobs for the people from Mexico. Because, you see, the people from Mexico are mainly working as migrant workers, and they'll be coming up to do the orchard and harvesting work in Southern California, Arizona, and New Mexico. And they wouldn't really be taking jobs away from Americans because Americans aren't going to do those jobs. They wouldn't be willing to do those jobs in the first place. So I think there's a bit of racism involved there on the part either of the local populace or on the part of government.
I was pleased to see that Randy Hurst in his big column in Sunday's paper was calling for help for the boat people, but then I was disappointed as I read on that all he was calling for really was hearings and United Nations investigations and things like that. I really don't think that's... when people are starving and dying, that's not the time for an investigation. That's the time to get a plane out there and get them into it and get them back here onto dry land.
And many people seem to forget that we were directly responsible for the situation these people find themselves in now. I don't mean we were tangentially responsible. I mean we were directly responsible. It was our interference in Southeast Asia which led to the displacement of many of these people because of either their cooperation with the United States during the Vietnamese War, or because of their, there's a lot of orphans. I'm sure there's people in this country who are not aware of all the children that the American GIs left in Vietnam. And those children are not treated as they're treated as second-class citizens in Vietnam because they have mixed blood. And I'm sure that people don't realize how many children were born from a GI father in Vietnam. There's just literally, I'd say, tens of thousands of them. I saw a French Vietnamese there once in Vietnam, and she looked pretty much like you'd expect a Western girl to look. She had all the features of a Westerner. But she was scorned, and she was a Vietnamese, and she had been there from the French. She was, her father had been a French soldier, and she was an outcast among the regular Vietnamese. And then there's the Chinese Vietnamese. They're also in a lower status. And we are responsible in large part for for the condition of those people, for the situation they find themselves in.
I don't see why it's so impossible for us to do something about it.
It's basically a matter of politics. It's basically if the government would be able to absorb those people, but if the government said so, they'd be sticking their neck out and come in for criticism, which if they don't do anything about it or even acknowledge the problem, they won't come in for that type of criticism. But it's politics. It's a political situation where doing nothing seems to be the best solution in the way a politician thinks. It's analogous to the United States refusing to admit those ships from Germany loaded with Jewish refugees or Jewish deportees from Germany.
Yeah, I think that was unconscionable also. And we look back on something like that and we say, well, how in the world could we have been so cruddy to act that way? And, well, now we have the opportunity to not be so cruddy, and here we are doing it again.
Oh, yeah. I think we just keep doing the same things over and over. I see very little difference between the man of today, the person of today, who supposedly is so much more enlightened, so much in favor of women's rights, in favor of minority rights, in favor of, anti-nuclear power. This is what typifies our society, but yet I find that we are the same kind of people that the Germans were during the Second World War, who allowed, for the most part, the killings, the extermination of the Jewish people in Germany and Poland and France and Denmark and so on. And ourselves, we are just as cruel, we are just as selfish as man has ever been. Let us not be lulled into the idea that we are somehow superior or we have somehow evolved because we have a man on the moon. We are not. We are same people. We are still capable of the same callousness, the same brutality, the same cruelty man has always been capable of. And I think it's something that has to be watched. I think it's something that has to be that people have to be aware of. But we don't seem to care too much about it.
Well, I think it's important for those of us who feel bad about it to let our feelings be known so that at least it doesn't go unnoticed. It doesn't go over with everybody just assuming that nobody cares at all.
But, I've heard people say that, and I can understand why they're saying it, because I can understand their thinking. They say that we shouldn't even help these people, we shouldn't even have anything to do with them, they're not Americans. And I understand why they think like that, but it's not a matter of being American, it's not a matter of that. It's a matter of basic humanity, I would think. It's a matter of being a human being and not allowing other people just to die right in front of you. That's what it's basically a question of.
Well said.
Okay.
Thanks for calling.
The Yankees seem to lose to Toronto quite a bit, don't they?
Sure do.
They have trouble with Toronto. Well, good night.
Good night, Speedy. It's 16 minutes past 10 o'clock. You're on WOKO.
Yes, good evening.
Geronimo.
You know how much I've said about different people getting into various offices strictly for the benefit of the Catholic Church?
Yeah.
Do you know anything about Theodore M. Black, who is the Chancellor of the New York State Board of Regents?
No.
Well, he has just spoken recently in front of the Catholic Lawyers Guild of Long Island Diocese, and he did most of his blasting against Carter for not coming out for aid to the parochial schools, and he went on, and then he charged the Supreme Court Justice William Brennan, Jr., a Catholic, seldom, if ever, allowed the express principles, policies, and positions of the bishops of his church to influence his judgment.
Good for Mr. Brennan.
And he didn't try to influence the other 8 non-Catholics, in the Supreme Court, and he just went and blasted him. But somehow, this man forgets that, all about, the Constitution or anything else, just to do this. And I think the last paragraph here is about the best. He has scorned the United States and the New York Constitution and attacked the educators he's supposed to work with and flouted the religious liberty views of most New Yorkers. And he feels that Black should resign as the Chancellor of the Board of Regents. And so do I.
I think it's amazing how that lifetime religious programming those people get can blind them to these constitutional situations when they get into major offices.
Well, and it's the same as Moynihan, Buckley, and, they're going right straight on again with their trying to, get all their tuition tax credits for the... Well, it says parochial schools. They don't even say non-public. They come right out and say what they mean. And that's it. But it just goes on and on and on, and everybody else is a bigot who says that they shouldn't be doing this. But it goes right back. I still say, and I think you're going to find on your local school board, that they are placed there strictly to try to get aid for their school, and really don't give a damn about the public school. Certainly, if you're on a public school board, you should be there strictly for the public school, shouldn't you?
I should think.
And I think that, but I mean, there's just another case of what they are doing, and, they talk about communists worming their way into different things. I feel this is done by the Catholic Church, and at this point, I think they're even more dangerous than the communists.
I was fascinated to see that abortion debate live from Cincinnati last night on Channel 17.
Oh.
Well. Quite a go-around there. Some pretty interesting stuff. I was also wishing that you were watching Channel 17 yesterday afternoon when Meeting of the Minds was on.
Oh, what was that?
Well, St. Augustine was on that.
Oh, boy.
And he was pretty thoroughly taken to task by the other great people from the past for his insistence upon the marriage of church and state and a number of other Catholic doctrines.
Well, I have to take care of my business.
That was a superb program.
At least I think we're getting this aired to the public, because when a few of us speak on these subjects, they think that we are dreaming this up. And perhaps if they do see it, especially on any of the televisions, whether it's the public or the educational stations, maybe they'll realize that it really is going on, and it isn't something that a few of us are saying, because they really don't believe it. Now, do you also know that the house chaplain salary has been doubled from $25,000 to $50,000?
Oh, wow.
And which, of course, we believe, if they want to have a chaplain, they should take up a collection and pay for it themselves.
I don't think they got any business
I
having
don't
a
think
chaplain.
they do either, but imagine raising his salary. I don't even know who he is, but $25,000 to $50,000.
It's a sad world.
Well, that's the point, and I'm just wondering how much sadder it can get. I'm about ready to give up.
I'm afraid it can get sadder.
Oh, did you hear over the weekend, and now they're even talking to keep from freezing to death, we'll have to go in public buildings?
Yeah.
I mean, don't you think that's just a little much?
Well, it's...
You really think it could come to that?
I sure do.
Well, maybe the end of the world is coming, huh?
Matter of fact...
I think we might just... Let's all stop working. Stop paying. Maybe if we all stop working and stop paying taxes, something will happen.
Yeah, they'll put us in jail.
You think they'd have room for us all?
That's the thought, if we could get enough people.
Remember, I don't know whether, how wide are the doors? Do you think I could get through one? I'd push one of those little squirts they got there for guards around. Well, I don't know. But every time I get one of these papers, and I find more and more that the church that thinks it's the only church, is pushing itself into everything and trying to push its way on everybody in every group there is. I think they're going to have to be stopped somehow.
Well, I hope...
Good religious war.
I hope enough of us can make ourselves heard in a verbal war to turn the tide.
But I am most pleased that it is getting on especially I think maybe the public or this television, anything, any medium, because I think at this point people have to hear and see it instead of read it to know that this is going on, and they're bad.
Okay.
Just the name St. Augustine, makes you a little sick right there.
Oh, he was an interesting cat. He was very, very well portrayed on that program. That Meeting of the Minds is fabulous.
It seems to me I read something about something on that over the weekend. I don't know. But I think it was St. Augustine came up, and I didn't know enough about him. Okay, thank you.
Thanks for the call. 22 and a half minutes past 10. You're on WOKO.
Hello, Mr. Huddle.
Hello there. Stephen, I believe.
Yes, you believe correctly. I was just listening to Geronimo. I just came in when she was talking. I didn't hear everything of what she said. But I heard you mention the show Meeting of Minds on Channel 17 last night. And last night. And I was watching that too, and you said you thought it depicted St. Augustine in an attractive light. Am I right?
Well, I thought he was attractively portrayed.
Yeah.
And although he certainly took his lumps from the others on the social issues, he was given the opportunity to make a couple of very moving and worthwhile statements.
See, the thing that got me about that whole thing, though, is that Augustine, being a man who was raised, on rhetoric and erudition, would never have sat down to some of the remarks they made, like that one English nobleman, I guess he opposed nuclear weapons or something. He was a pretty dynamic figure. But always, whenever any of the figures started to talk, he was always butting in, which immensely, just annoyed me. But I've read some of Augustine's work, and I don't think that the best of his theories and the doctrines that I won't say established, but the doctrines that he worked on and built up were really came to light at all. And I guess it's a two-parter, so maybe we'll see it, something of it next week.
Well, I suppose if you were a strong fan of Jefferson, for instance, you would probably feel that he was slighted.
That's true. Of course, I know a little bit about Jefferson. Jefferson was portrayed there as a mild-mannered and, nice country gentleman who wanted everybody to, come to a common ground. And from what I read of Jefferson, he was a little bit more dynamic than that, and he wasn't a tolerant man, So I don't think that was really such a great portrayal. I think that he believed in a lot of things that the actor who portrayed him said, but I don't think that he was quite as mild-mannered and as, easily placated in his views,
Well, any of those men in his own setting would have been expected to be more vociferous than in a setting such as that. For instance, if I were invited to a round-table discussion with the other talk show hosts in the area, I would be far less vociferous and nasty than I am here.
Yeah.
Just because that, for one thing, that isn't my setting. It wouldn't be my job to beat them down the way it is to beat you down. So I would be much easier to live with there, and I think St. Augustine would too.
That could be. But then I'm looking beyond his basic humanity, what he is for me as the symbol. I also watched that show on abortion yesterday on Channel 17, or I should say the later half of it. Did you see the pamphlet that gentleman held up that was paid for with federal funds?
Yes, yes, I saw that.
And I wonder if Geronimo saw that, because, she's talking separation of church and state, and it works both ways,
She didn't watch it, so she didn't see that.
No, but that's a shame. She should really have seen that, because there's a lot of hypocrisy to just talk separation of church and state, and the Catholics are going to take over, and the Pope's coming over in a gunboat, he's going to take us all over, or something like that. And then you see something like that, and there is a lot of anti-Catholicism creeping around here. And I don't mean the honest kind and, open kind that Geronimo professes, but a lot of backdoor, bigotry of that type, publishing a picture of that nature. And for those the people who are listening don't know what it was an image of Mary, I believe entitled The Immaculate Conception, with the face of the mad character, what's his name, Alan Ladd or something like that?
Alfred E. Newman.
Oh, Alfred E. Newman, surrounded by angels with the same features, and then with the caption, "Pregnant? Why should I worry?" or something like that.
Alfred E. Newman always says, "What, me worry?"
What, me worry?
Yeah.
But I found that quite interesting, something I didn't know. I would like to know if anybody knows of any Catholic pamphlets were published, by the federal government, because I'd be interested, in knowing both sides.
Yep.
And another thing is, when those people got in a bus, and it was a church bus, they were a parish, which I hate to admit, but I must, got in the bus and went to this abortion clinic of some sort, and they were supposed to keep a silent vigil of some sort.
Yeah.
They were practically stoned. I mean, you go across the river and people, get out of here, etc., etc. They couldn't even sit in front of the stupid clinic.
Well, they weren't keeping a silent vigil. They were...
No, I don't know. I didn't see that. What were they doing that? I mean, people were coming up to them and confronting them and saying, "I have a right to do this," and they seemed to be answering more than actually going after people, because the man said, "Don't go after people. Don't harass them. Just sit and have a silent vigil."
Mm-hmm.
But whether they did that or not, as you say, I can't be certain, because it was kind of garbled, the whole situation.
Well, I think these visits to clinics are unconscionable. I think it's the right to life.
One view.
Yeah, well, that's one view. Yes, I think they're unconscionable, and I wouldn't stone them, but I would certainly be interested in making them as uncomfortable as I could and as unwelcome as I could.
Well, they were going to use physical violence, and I mean, you see these people, you hear about the talk of bombing abortion clinics and all this other stuff. But
not just talk.
Oh, I know that's not just talk. I know that's actually happened. But I mean, people have been hurt by, the pro-abortionists too. There's all sides to tell.
Who've been hurt by the pro-abortionists?
Well, I mean, the kind of physical violence you see. On the documentaries, they had another documentary on Channel 17 in which there was a sit-in, which I don't agree with, in an abortion clinic, and they kicked this guy in the back, kicked him all around. These two big interns, like he was, just a football or something. They didn't let the police come and take care of it, which is their job. Well, there's a lot of physical abuse on both sides.
I can't really buy the notion that there's as much on the one side as the other. I think.
Well, that's because you espouse the one side.
I don't think so. I think I can espouse the one side without being blind to the news that comes in from these things, and it seems to me that there's been something like 100 to 1 or 500 to 1 episodes of violence perpetrated by the so-called right-to-lifers than vice versa.
But how can you tell you're getting full press coverage?
You can't. I realize that, but there's no reason to think otherwise. I see no reason to think otherwise.
Well, that's one view, too. But I guess Geronimo thinks the Catholics are more dangerous than communists, huh?
Well, in a lot of ways, I do, too.
Do you?
The opposition to birth control, I think, is horrendous. I think it's the most evil doctrine afoot in the world today.
That doesn't much, it doesn't surprise me that you would say something like that after listening to you, but it doesn't really bother me as much. Because I can't convince you, and your reasoning just can't convince me. I don't want to get into, religion or my reasons again, because I've gone over it with you once before, but I don't know, I could never espouse it. I can even see where, under certain circumstances, heavily surveyed, that perhaps some Medicaid abortions could be taking place, but not on the large scale, free-for-all
Now, mind you, I didn't say the opposition to abortion was the most evil doctrine. I said the opposition to birth control.
Oh, birth control.
The opposition to abortion I disagree with, but I recognize the possible validity of it. I can see how a person that I could respect could oppose abortion.
I find the birth control...
I don't believe anybody that I could respect could oppose birth control. In other words, as far as I'm concerned, if a person opposes birth control, they're either a nincompoop or an agent of the devil. And I just couldn't possibly have any respect for anyone who opposed birth control. I just think that's an evil, stupid, very, very harmful doctrine, and as far as I'm concerned, much more dangerous and much more threatening to this country and to the world than communism.
I'm sorry I didn't hear you say that. When I just heard you say I'm very opposed. As far as birth control goes, I'm kind of up in the air on the issue right now. I don't agree with it, certainly, totally, but I don't denounce it in its totality either, because there is a lot that I don't know, you know. And you can't be objective about it. There are few people who can really be objective about it. On the one hand, you have people who do use it, and on the other hand, you have people who don't.
And we better start using it. Well, I think it's really too late. I think that the human race has already been given its death warrant by the non-use of birth control.
No, I don't.
Well, we disagree.
Birth control.
We disagree. I would like to hope you're right, but I am not optimistic.
Oh, I'm certain I'm right.
Okay.
If anything destroys us, it will be, you know, the work of our hands, you know, if you know what I mean, salt too in the air and everything. That worries me more than anything else right at this point.
I think we are more threatened by overpopulation than by all the other threats put together.
Oh, no, I don't, because I'm sort of a fatalist in a way, because I don't know, for every disease that man conquers, for everything man overcomes, another disease or another outbreak or something that brings death kind of brings us in tow. That's what helps, you know, the continents.
You can see the silliness of that by just looking at the figures. Look at the population figures. Earth has 4 billion people on it.
4 billion people? Yeah, but we're not sure that it didn't always have 4 billion people.
I'm reasonably certain that it didn't.
You're reasonably certain, but, you know, hey, why did the Indians, the Native Americans, first come here? Perhaps by overpopulation. We don't know how many people existed in the Far East, or, you know, even really in the Middle East, or India, and places like that during the Middle Ages or the early ages. It's hard to say. It's a hard thing to get into, because on one hand it is religious as far as the birth control business goes, and it does have foundation in the scriptures, some of the prohibition of birth control, but not total prohibition on the other hand either. So it's debatable.
Not to my mind by intelligent people.
Okay. Thanks for listening to me.
Thanks for calling.
Good night.
Bye. It's 26 minutes before 11 o'clock. The Ladies Auxiliary of Oak Hill Durham Volunteer Fire Company will hold their annual fun fair at Brandow Memorial Park, Route 22, Oak Hill. Wait a minute, am I giving you something that's outdated? No, it's this Saturday, this coming Saturday, from 4 to 11 p.m., and Sunday, July 1st, from 1 to 11 p.m. Here's the weather forecast for the Capital District. Tonight, clear and cold. Chance of fog or frost in the valleys, low 39. Tomorrow, sunny and a little warmer, high 75. Tomorrow night, clear and cool, low 48. Wednesday, sunny and warm, high 80. Probability of rain near 0%, at least through tomorrow night. We have 56 degrees, clear sky, wind from the north-northeast, 7 miles per hour, relative humidity 53%, barometer 30.36 rising. 56 degrees.
The benefits of space exploration. Spaces and places. Solutions. Some people believe that space travel is like climbing Mount Everest. The sole purpose of the trip is just to get there. For these reasons, they criticize the space program as an unnecessary waste of money. They say we should be concentrating on crucial issues such as energy and health care. But we'll hear how space exploration itself helps to solve these problems in a moment, after this word from International Scout.
Oh, I just love our new car, hon.
Car? How many times I gotta tell you, Gladys, it's not a car, it's a Scout. International Scout. Anything less is just a car.
Hey, Charlie, see you got a new car.
Car? A car wouldn't have all this room or tow a boat like this. This is a Scout.
International Scout. Anything less is just a car.
Scout does everything a car does, and a lot of things ordinary cars can't. Scout's rugged four-wheel drive provides sure footing on rough roads, slippery roads, or no roads at all. A beefed-up frame really withstands the punishment, and the engine is built to tackle chores an ordinary car engine never could. But try it yourself. Test drive a Scout at your International Scout dealer. You'll see why anything less is just a car.
Say, what was that car I saw you with last night?
That was no car. That was my Scout. International Scout. Anything less is just a car.
On July 20th, 1969, the nation cheered as Neil Armstrong walked on the moon. That one small step gave us all a feeling of pride and accomplishment. But did you know that the benefits derived from that Apollo mission were much more than just walking on the moon? The knowledge gained from space exploration has helped mankind in numerous ways. A direct result of the space program is the capability of solving many of our energy and health problems. This week in Washington, D.C., an exciting conference is being held. It's called Space Program 1979, a time for public decision. Well-known personalities and space experts are gathering to educate the American people on the many benefits of space exploration. We'll hear what those benefits are in our next program. Spaces and Places from the editors of Mariah Outside Magazine, I'm David Perry.
Talk with Charlie Huddle on WOKO. Call 438-4511.
Let's see now. Sorry about that little pause there. I was deeply involved, wandering around the building, getting cooled off. You're on WOKO.
Oh, hi, Charlie.
Hello.
Well, I'd like to go back and respond to the man who called you last week about abortion. You recall the person who was very anti-abortion. We had a long conversation with him.
Yes, a fairly articulate person, but he
was articulate and he was intelligent, but I'd like to respond to what he said.
All right.
Listening to him, it seemed to me, you can correct me if you think I got this wrong, but it seemed to me that his thesis was that abortion was something that he couldn't in any conscience sanction. It was murder. I'm not sure whether he said that or not, but that seemed to me what he was saying, that it was murder. And that the solution for women who didn't care to raise the child that they were carrying was to give it up for adoption. Is that what you think he was saying?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I'd just like to present some scenarios for your audience. He was saying that abortion was a traumatic experience, that women very often had all kinds of aftershocks, if you will. He seemed to downplay what happened when women gave their children up for adoption. And any study that I've ever seen, any reputable study, has shown that while there is a certain amount of trauma connected with abortion, obviously because, I think mainly because of the Right to Life activists who have, bombed clinics and done everything they could to tell women that it was murder, most people who have abortions, their main reaction is relief. Most people are glad that they have had abortions. And while it's true that some people do suffer trauma, and I suppose that there are some long-lasting effects, when you look at women who have born children, you find that many of them have trauma. Some of them turn to drink, some of them turn to drugs, some of them turn to child abuse, and some of them turn to suicide. So that bearing a child is more traumatic in any study that I've ever seen, for more people than having an abortion is. There's so much child abuse in our society and so much going on that we've only touched the tip of the iceberg. When women are forced to bear unwanted children, very often that turns out tragically. But he didn't mention any of that. He only talked about abortion, and he presented no studies, no statistics to bear them out. But just let me give you a few, as I say, a few scenarios. Let's say that you're 12 years old and you live in a small town, and you find that you're pregnant. And according to what he wanted the girl to do, she would bear the child and just give the child out for adoption. Now, how would one do that in a small town? If one left school for that length of time, doesn't he think that people would talk about that? Doesn't he think that that would get out? Does he think that that girl could then come back after having born a child and given that child out for adoption without any kind of scars? Does he think that is just that simple? You know, it seemed to me that he did. He wasn't thinking about the people in our society who have children at the age of 10 and 11 and 12 and 13, and that's getting more common. Now, let's say that you're 42 years old and you have 5 children. You have a husband and you have 5 children who are dependent on you. Do you carry this this child to term and then calmly give it out for adoption and just tell your children that, Mommy isn't bringing the baby home, we've given it out for adoption? What does he think that would do to a woman, to her family? He didn't talk about that.
Was it him or another caller who suggested that all abortions were the result of sinful behavior?
I don't recall that. I don't know whether he said that or not.
I think he was maybe too smart for that.
Perhaps the worst of all, let's say that you're a young woman who has had a baby who has died of Tay-Sachs disease. Are you familiar with that disease?
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the worst diseases known to humanity. If you have a child who was born with Tay-Sachs disease, that child will die horribly and awfully and cruelly in front of your eyes, generally by the age of 3, 4, 5 or 6 tops. And it's just heart-wrenching. And let's say that you've had a child who died terribly of this disease, and you've pulled yourself together as much as one can under those circumstances, and you and your husband have decided to have another child, and you conceive and you have amniocentesis, and you find that you are carrying another child with Tay-Sachs disease, because they can tell that by amniocentesis. Does he want you to bring the child into the world and give it out for adoption? Does he want you to just go through that again? Do you realize what that could do to someone? And there are people who have gone through 2, maybe even 3 Tay-Sachs children. Can you just imagine what that would do to you? You know, to watch your child die like that in front of your eyes and not be able to do anything about it, and yet he would force that woman to bear that child.